So, today we're talking about the 2006 film Slither. It was written and directed by James Gunn. Let me just double check that it was written by him as well, I imagine. Writer James Gunn, yeah. And he just had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 come out, which I have not seen yet. But honestly, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is probably one of my favorite MCU movies. The second one's fine. I think Suicide Squad, the 2021 one, was pretty fun. It was definitely way better compared to the other one. And I know some people have issues with James Gunn, that he's kind of the typical action comedy Marvel guy, and that's a lot of what people dislike about Marvel nowadays. But I think that the new Marvel movies that I dislike, some of the newest 2021, 2022 ones, it seems like filmmakers are trying to replicate James Gunn. I've enjoyed every outing that I've had on his movies. So, I feel like some people try to knock him because he's typical Marvel guy and embodies Marvel humor, but the ones that he's done, I really have quite enjoyed. He may have inspired some movies that kind of just overdo it, but I think most of his stuff is pretty solid in itself. And yeah, so we're talking specifically about Slither. And one of the first things I noticed with the cast specifically is he has his guys that he brings in every movie. I mean, Nathan Fillion cameo in Suicide Squad. I believe cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Sorry if that spoiled it for anybody. I haven't seen it myself, so I really am not 100% sure. I mean, Michael Rooker is in so many of them. His brother is not actually in this one, but he is often in his other stuff. But yeah, he has his guys that he goes to. And when I was going into Slither, I had a coworker recommend it to me, so I really didn't know too much about it. And I watched the trailer, and it's not really a horror movie in that it'll scare you. It's a comedy horror movie. And I explained it to my mom, who really, really doesn't like horror movies. And she's like, oh yeah, it kind of seems like, typical action comedy with horror elements that she would watch. And it really is that. And it's just a lot of fun. It really brings you back to just, mid 2000s, where a lot of movies, they're not a part of a franchise. And it's just standalone. The whole movie can be communicated in one go. Doesn't need a sequel or anything. And it was just a lot of fun, silly, stupid story that's self-contained. And yeah, that's what I really enjoyed about it. It really just feels, isolated, its own thing, not a part of a franchise. And that is one of the reasons why it makes me smile when talking about it. And so going on to the actual content of the movie, I think Nathan Fillion is so charming. Nathan Fillion is insanely charming. He's not really in too much these days, is he? Let me see. Sort by newest released. I guess he is in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Spoiler. But he's not in anything huge. Oh, Cars 3. Sorry, what am I saying? Cars 3 is massive. But he's so charming. He's in, Firefly? And I really do enjoy Firefly. And Serenity, the movie, it was awesome as well. But yeah, Nathan Fillion, this is just this is such a great role for him. Just an isolated sci-fi horror comedy. And again, I'm talking about the Marvel isms, he has a lot of just one-liners in this movie. He sees something gross happening, and he's like, this is having a bad day or something. And it's somebody who's a zombie. One of them, he looks at a neighbor, or just he's the sheriff of town. He just looks he looks at a town member who's all zombified, and he's like, hey, what happened to you? And the guy's like, it's just a bunch of bee stings. What's another good one? Old man, he's they see the slugs start coming into town, and the old man's like, that looks like a thing that came off my dick in the war. And just ridiculous stuff like that. And it is silly. It's I don't know. It was fun. So the movie itself, spoiler free, I think this is if you haven't been catching on, if you haven't been picking up what I'm putting down, I think if you haven't seen this movie and you just want it's a pretty good time, it would be pretty good in a group scenario. I think kind of if somebody's not expecting something this ridiculous, but it's not going to scare people too much, and it's just pretty fun. I would highly, highly recommend it. It's shot very whimsically, if that makes sense. It feels reminiscent of old school small town, just fun movies. One that I really think of is Super 8. I love Super 8. And it's just like, yeah, small town community, something supernatural going on. It just has that feel to it. And all the actors, I think, are pretty great. I think Michael Rooker, he's great. I mean, I really can only think of him in James Gunn movies, but he's a lot of fun as kind of like one of the main villains. He gets a lot of prosthetic makeup, and yeah, his stuff is just a lot of fun. And like I've been saying, Nathan Fillion is great. Elizabeth Banks is kind of typical damsel in distress, but I guess not completely in distress, just like love interest. She was just Nathan Fillion's love interest the whole time, but she was cool. She had some cool moments where she's kind of like, she has her badass moments. And yeah, I think everybody else, yeah, solid job. Jenna Fisher made a cameo. I know she used to date James Gunn, so that's funny. Hey, Office Lady, she's in there, and she's on the phone too. That's crazy. That's funny. Did he mean to do that? Was The Office going at the same time? I think so. But okay, on to the actual story. This will be full on into spoilers, but I'm not gonna go crazy deep into the movie because, like, yeah, it is pretty surface level. It's pretty fun, but some of the moments that I particularly enjoyed. I mean, it really did. It had a good hook at the beginning where you have just the two cops in their cop car. They're just chilling around, and then the comet comes in behind them, and then they're just they're clocking the radar gun. They're shooting at a bird, and he's like, "Oh wow, it's going like 32 miles an hour. I'm usually good at guessing. I would have said like 25." And he's like have a mental crisis because he didn't guess the speed of this bird correctly. I don't know. It was just, yeah, fun writing. I know James Gunn's pretty good at that. Fun writing. And right off the bat, I was just like, okay, this is fun. This is going to be silly. This is going to be a good time. And it was a good time. And then what happens first? Yeah. So we're kind of following two storylines at the beginning. We're following the storyline of Nathan Fillion. He is in the town bar with a bunch of other people. There's a get together and they're counting down. I guess when it goes to midnight, it's now deer hunting season. And they just love their deer hunting, and they're like, "Oh, what's more fun than hunting deers?" And then the mayor, who I forget his name, who is just an absolute scumbag of this movie. Oh yeah, there's the scene with the mayor right at the beginning. He's driving his car, he's honking his horn. He's like, "Hey, get the F out of the way! What do you think you're doing? Blah blah blah." And the guy's just like, "Okay." And then there's a lady with her daughter on the side of the road, and she's like, "Hey, Mr. Mayor," and that's how we're first introduced to the mayor. And so, yeah, another scene at the very beginning that was just like, just a funny comedic writing moment that just hooked me in. That was a lot of fun. I mean, the mayor character was just like, he was like comedic relief in a movie with a lot of comedy, but he was just like absolutely over the top, ridiculous asshole mayor. But he was kind of fun. But, okay, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. But when he died, so we had the scene in a barn where the slugs are first released. A bunch of their posse, they get hit with the slugs, crawl in their mouths, become zombies. And then the mayor, it seems like one was going to get in his mouth. He let it go. And then later on, when they go to the house, he gets driven in the car and he just like spouts the most nonsensical stuff, freaks out in the car, which is funny. And then he's there. He's starting to be zombified, and he looks up at Nathan Fillion. He's like, "Oh, kill me!" And then Nathan Fillion just shoots him in the head. And it's like, it was a moment where we weren't really focusing on the mayor. It's like we were focusing on Nathan Fillion and Elizabeth Banks. They were going to this house. They're going to finally stop the monster. And then he was just on the ground. He's like, "Kill me!" And then he just killed him. And it's like, that was the mayor. You just killed the mayor. That was brutal. It was brutal. That's all I'm trying to say. It was just stuck out to me for some reason. Okay, back to the beginning. We have them counting down to deer season, and Elizabeth Banks' husband, Michael Rooker, who is Grant, that's his name. He's very rich, and he didn't show up, unfortunately, because he was too busy with a woman in the forest, and then a slug egg thing entered his ribcage, and he became the primary host of whatever alien thing this is. It's like, if I'm thinking about this from a sci-fi perspective, how does this alien work? Somebody was saying like, oh, it was the girl, the younger girl. What's her face? This girl here. Kylie, right. Kylie. So Kylie, she had a moment right here actually in the bathtub where she's listening to music. A slug starts to enter her mouth and she has visions of becoming a part of this hive mind. And then she is able to pull it out and not succumb to becoming a part of the hive mind somehow. And she has visions of, oh, she now understands the hive mind. It's from another planet and it goes world to world. Just like, taken over. And it's like, if it goes world to world and you're part of a hive mind, why is Michael Rooker's character like the main focus on Earth? Why are they all communicating through Michael Rooker if it goes from world to world? Shouldn't it be just like the general hive mind and then they're speaking like some alien language of a previous world that he's infested? Nevertheless, maybe it like laid an egg and then on this world specifically, they're all part of a hive mind. Maybe it's just like the alien force, but then it was all connected to the alien. She saw the vision. It doesn't make much sense. But I guess it doesn't really have to because it is a silly horror comedy. But I'm just trying to figure out how it all makes sense because it's like you become Michael Rooker and then Michael Rooker uses his tentacles from his chest to get this woman and blow her up like a balloon. So they go on a search for a missing woman who Michael Rooker abducted and put her in a house, and she became a nest for slugs and became the size of an entire barn, inflated. And she's like, oh, I'm just so hungry. I need to eat meat. Can you pass me that possum, please? And then she explodes into a million slugs who invade the town. So the alien needs a general host, Michael Rooker, and then Michael Rooker will make a nest of another person who the slugs will then go into other people and make them zombies. There's a lot of different steps. So we have Michael Rooker as the main. We have the hosts who give birth to the worms, and then the worms enter people. They become zombies, but they become part of the hive mind, so they do the commands of Michael Rooker, and they speak as if they're him. And then the slugs are still a thing. And then Michael Rooker has a bunch of tentacles. I don't know, it's all very confusing. It is very confusing. Moving on from the beginning part of the movie, after Michael Rooker becomes, he finds this egg in the forest, blah, blah, blah. It impales him. He becomes the host. Then we have, there are funny bits where Elizabeth Banks is like, hey, what's wrong with you? Did you go to the doctor? He's like, yeah, I went to the doctor. Yeah, I love you, actually. You're so cool. And then he's actually just hiding a bunch of meat and dead animals in the basement, which was cool. I dug that. And then we focus more on Nathan Fillion, because I feel like for the first 30 minutes, we had like the scenes of Nathan Fillion at the bar when they're counting down to deer hunting season, and then he wasn't in it for it a lot. It focused on Michael Rooker and Elizabeth Banks like a lot. And then it went to Nathan Fillion, and I think that's just like when it amps up and it becomes just like so fun. Like he is so charismatic. He's so good in this, I think. So yeah, we kind of just go on the adventure with him. They go into the forest, look for the missing woman. She's there, bunch of slugs. They're like, don't let the slugs in your mouth. And then one of his sidekicks, she gets sprayed with, they also have acid spray. They have so many like different abilities. It's crazy. They got the slugs, they got the zombies just wanting to eat people. You got the acid spray. Why do the zombies want to eat people? Are the zombies going to become inflated with slugs when they eat more people? So maybe she just started as a zombie, but she kind of communicated clearly and didn't become a part of the hive mind. So maybe she's separate. It doesn't make any sense. But they also have acid spray, is what I'm trying to say. Good effects. The effects in this movie were quite good for the time. I think it was like a $15 million budget on this. They look pretty good. I mean, it's not crazy for like a huge sci-fi spectacle, but I think specifically the acid spray, it like sprayed on her neck, and in the same shot as it was getting sprayed, her neck like enlarged. I was expecting them to cut to like a different shot, and it like enlarged and it like started to burst. It's not all practical effects. The slugs are clearly special effects, but I think it worked pretty well. I think that worked pretty well. There is a decent amount of special effects, but some of the practical ones really did look good. Like, I think that the woman who is inflated, a lot of that was practical effects, it seemed like. And I mean, yeah, zombie makeup, there's a lot of that in it, so it didn't have to be crazy. A lot of when people's limbs get chopped off and things like that, it seemed pretty real. And then I think Michael Rooker, a lot of his character near the end did feel pretty practical. I mean, there's definitely some clear visual effects where they see Michael Rooker at one point and he has like just like a dangly tentacle arm, and I'm pretty sure that was like visual effects, special effects. But I mean, I think it was just a good mix overall of everything. I think it was a good mix. Yeah, in the middle of the movie where they're kind of trying to hunt down Michael Rooker, they get a squad of their police people, and then Elizabeth Banks is like, oh, I gotta come along too because he's my husband and he'll listen to me. Like, you have this general plot with this the sci-fi slugs, everything. And then the subplot that they're trying to hammer in so hard is the romantic subplot with Nathan Fillion and Elizabeth Banks. It's like, It's pretty typical subplot romance. It works, whatever. It's just nothing crazy. Then what happens? Yeah, they go to the shed. The woman blows up, bunch of slugs. Then the slugs, they get Kylie, and then Kylie becomes a part of the adventure. Elizabeth Banks is captured, and she's like, "Oh no, baby, you gotta listen to me. I will love you no matter what you look like." And then she tries to stab him, and then Michael Rooker's like, "You tried to betray me." Throws her against the wall. Nathan Fillion's like, "Hey, get a piece of this," or some one-liner. Throws the grenade, but the grenade gets hit out of his hand and it goes in the pool and it explodes. And then the way he beat him was, so apparently 2 tentacles need to be impaled into you to become one of the zombies or one of the hosts that goes into a big slug-filled balloon. And only one was in him, so that was dragging him. And then the other one was flailing, and he grabbed like a propane tank and hooked it up to that. And then, because it is now being, Michael Rooker, alien body, is being filled with gas, Elizabeth Banks shoots it, and it explodes. And they win. And all the zombies die. And it's like, it's the classic superhero hive mind. We just gotta destroy the database. Star Wars Episode 1, all the droids are decommissioned. You know, typical superhero stuff, which, I mean, this does feel like a superhero movie, but not a superhero movie, which I think is a good thing. The hive mind is destroyed, and the explosion probably should have been bigger. Yeah, gotta hack the mainframe, it'll take them all down. And so they do that, and then they take them all down. And then they walk on the road, and then the movie's done. I think one of the last one-liners, Elizabeth Banks is like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing great." And he's impaled. Get it? And then they walk along the road, and then the credits roll. Pretty fun, self-contained, horror comedy. Nothing crazy different from a lot of like comedy action superhero movies, but I think it's unique enough with its horror attributes. The fact that it is a standalone story, the fact that Nathan Fillion is very charming, I think all that makes it just into a fun little package. I hadn't really heard of this movie before my coworker recommended it, so it is quite overlooked. It seems like 83K, I mean, that's not crazy in terms of views on Letterboxd. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a good time. Glad I watched it.